So on January the 11th earlier this year, I achieved a personal milestone of reaching a net worth of £400,000. And in today's video, I'm going to take you through the 5.5 steps that I followed to get there. Now I know this isn't going to be your typical 0 to millionaire video that you do normally see on YouTube. Instead, what this is going to be is a real account of how anyone can do this without really having a ridiculously high paying job or business. So having said that, let's jump in straight away with step number one. And this is going to be something that a lot of people may think is really obvious, but at the same time is still one thing that really needs to be brought up, and that is you are going to need to start making some money in one way or another. This is simply because if you do want to start growing your wealth, then you're obviously going to need the tools to be able to do that. And in our case, the main tool here is going to be money. Now, when it comes to making your money, this is normally going to come in the form of a job or a business. But the key thing right here is that you just need something. It doesn't really matter how much you're going to be making at the start. All you need is a base that we can start building on. Now, when you do have that, which I'm assuming most people watching this video will already have, but like I said, it did need to be mentioned, it's time to move on to step number two, which has probably been the most important step to building my net worth over time, and that is to start investing your money as soon as you possibly can. This is simply because I don't know about you, but I can honestly say that I have never heard of any millionaires or multi-millionaires out there that haven't become as rich as they are without some form of investment. I mean, I'm sure we've all heard of that saying, the rich get richer, right? Well, this comes from one thing, and that is the rich investing their money to help it grow without them really putting in any kind of effort or input. So, knowing this, what you're going to need to be doing is taking as much money as you can from that base income that we spoke about in step one and start getting that money working for you. In terms of the types of investments that you can go for, you're going to have a few options to choose from. First up, you have investments into the stock market, where you could go and invest into things like index funds or ETFs. These are going to be relatively safe ways to grow your money over a long period of time. But then of course you then have one of the most common investments that people make in their life, and that is investing into property. I mean, when you think about it, most people at some point in their life is going to own a home outright, or at least have some kind of equity in a house. And as recent trends say, over the past 20 years, if you did buy a house within that period, then the likelihood is that's been a really good decision. One of the key factors in actually helping my net worth grow over £400,000 are going to be my investments into the two different investment properties that I own. First off, I have a 2-bedroom flat that I currently rent out to a couple of tenants, and the price that I actually have paid for that flat has risen £30,000 in value over the past 5 years. And then I have the house that I currently live in right now, which I purchased for £260,000 back in 2020, and it has already been valued at £300,000. That is an increase of £40,000 in just 18 months. So when you break that down, when you include how much my deposit was, plus the mortgage that I've already paid off on the properties already, almost 3/4 of my total net worth actually sits within these two properties, so it only shows how great of an investment it can actually be. However, if the property or the stock market doesn't really take your fancy, then you do also have alternative investments like gold, silver, collectibles, cryptocurrencies, or even luxury watches. For example, this Rolex that I have on right now, I only paid £5,300 for back in 2015, which I know sounds like a bizarre amount of money to spend on a watch, but right now this same watch is worth over £10,000, and that's still with me wearing it almost every single day for the past 7 years. However, when it comes down to it, whatever you decide to invest into, the key concept here is to get started as soon as you possibly can and take advantage of what we like to call compounding interest over time. This is because when it comes to our incomes or pretty much everything else, these are normally things that we can control. However, when it comes to time, we have absolutely zero control over it, and I think that this next case study couldn't prove this any more perfectly. So, as you can see on the screen, here we have David and Mike. David started investing just £100 a month at the age of 25, and Mike decided to do the same. However, he decided to start a further 20 years later, and what Mike decided to do was start investing £200 a month just to try and catch David up over time. Now, by the age of 65, both David and Mike had the same exact amount invested into the market, and over the course of time, their investments went up around an average of 5% every single year. However, this is where it gets really fascinating. David, who invested 20 years earlier, had almost double the amount as Mike, with over £150,000 saved up to retire on. Why is this? Well, this is simply because David gave his money much more time to compound without having to really sacrifice as much of his income. So knowing this, if you can take step number one, which is earning a base income, and then from there invest as much as you can as early as you can, then this next step is going to take things to the next level, and that is to turn your focus into building multiple streams of income. Some of the income streams that I've managed to build up over that time is building websites for small businesses, reselling products on eBay and Amazon, and of course this YouTube channel. And doing this has allowed me to do two main things, and number one is going to be, of course, I can now invest more money into my investments. So my main focus as of late has been piling as much money into the stock market as possible. And then secondly, it's allowed me to pay off my mortgages much faster, which have been big contributors to my net worth because I am getting more money in every single month. Now, maybe for some people, starting something businessy like a side hustle on the side thing might not even be your thing. Well, don't worry, that's actually not a problem. A second source of income could literally be something as simple as a part-time job. So having said that, when you do get to a point where maybe you've locked in one or two extra income streams, one thing that you're going to see from this is an obvious change in your income every single month. And of course, I mentioned how I was able to fully maximize this opportunity in receiving this new income. And I think it's super important for you to maximize it as well, because one thing that a lot of people do fall into is something called lifestyle inflation. And this is going to be step number 4. You need to be avoiding this as much as possible. Now, for those that didn't already know, lifestyle inflation is simply the case of as you start to earn more money, you're going to want to naturally buy nicer things. And don't worry, I completely get it. The more you earn, the more you do want nicer things. It's just natural for us to actually want that. You're going to want to enjoy life. And to be honest, that's absolutely fine. However, if you do want to start building wealth over time and you haven't got an unlimited pot of income coming in every single month, then unfortunately, to be able to do this, some sacrifices are just going to have to be made, especially if you want to go ahead and retire early as well. But moving back to lifestyle inflation, on the other end of the spectrum, some people like to enjoy their lives a little bit too much. And one shocking article that I recently found that was posted last year was that in America, over 60% of millennials that earn more than $100,000 a year claim that every single month they are living paycheck to paycheck. Imagine you had an emergency, or maybe at worst case scenario, you lost your job. You just wouldn't be able to survive, and there is only one way to explain this, and that is simply lifestyle inflation. One tip that I have for everyone actually when it comes to avoiding lifestyle inflation, because like I said, everybody naturally has it in them to want to spend a little bit more money from time to time, is to actually pay yourself first. Now, what do I mean by this? Basically, what I mean by this is when I used to receive my income from my job, or maybe any income from my business, what I would do once I know that my bills are covered, I would put that money into my savings or my investments straight away, and then I would learn to adapt on the money that I had left over. Now, if you did it the opposite way around, where you obviously waited until the end of the month, then the likelihood is you're going to spend more money because you're going to see more money in your bank account, which means you're going to be a lot more relaxed. So what I say to everybody is, no matter how much you get paid, keep paying yourself first, and as this money increases, just increase the amount that you put away at the start every single month. Now, one thing that I haven't mentioned that you can do when it comes to investing is that instead of investing all of your money straight into the stock market or a property or anything like that, is to actually take some of the money that you've earned from your income streams and then reinvest them back into the income streams or the side businesses to help them grow even bigger in the future. This is going to be step number 5, and a really good example is going to be my YouTube channel right here. Of course, I'm going to earn ads from it. I mean, that's no big secret at all. However, when I first started filming on this YouTube channel, I pretty much did everything on my iPhone. I didn't have any fancy editing software. I didn't have any fancy lighting or equipment or anything like that. And to film and upload and get all the way to publishing a video, it would take me literally 1 week to do that. However, now, as I made more money from the channel, what I decided to do was reinvest as much money as I possibly could into things such as new equipment and other bits that have now allowed me to produce more content at a higher quality rate, which leads to me making more videos per week, which is then of course going to funnel down to the fact that I'll be making more from this YouTube channel every single month. I know this may all sound really obvious. Reinvesting into your business is always going to make you more money over time, but it's always that delayed gratification that people can't really get their heads around. And I think that I am living proof, especially with my YouTube channel. Let me just put up on the screen a video of my first ever video in terms of its quality versus the video that I'm filming today. And hopefully just looking at these two side by side, it can really show off the power of reinvesting into your business and seeing that delayed gratification over time. But having said that, by now, what you should really have is a solid base with your main income that we spoke about in step one. You then have those investments compounding over time because you've invested as early as possible. And remember, it's not about the amount that you invest, it's more about the consistency and, like I said, time that you're invested in the market for. And then finally, of course, you have your multiple income streams that you're building up on the side as well, where you can take all of the money from those income streams and either reinvest them back into the income streams to grow them further, or reinvest them back into the investments that you've chosen. And doing all of this then leads me onto my final step, which I'm going to call step 5.5 because I don't think it's a full step. And that is simply just to repeat steps 2, 3, 4, and 5 as much as you possibly can. And the more that you can do it, the more your money is going to compound, and ultimately, the quicker your net worth is going to grow over time. I really can't start to explain how important it is to get these 5.5 relatively simple and easy steps correct over time, especially if you do want to start growing your wealth at a quick rate. And believe me, you will be shocked on how quickly you can grow it, especially with that compound interest. I actually remember breaking down my net worth when I was sat at a 9-to-5 job around 10 years ago. And I don't think back then, whilst I can't exactly remember, I was even past £10,000 in total. And like I said, today or earlier this year, I've now surpassed 400,000, which, whilst I'm not the richest person that you're going to see on this platform, for me is something that I never ever dreamed of achieving. In fact, now I mention that, if you did want to see a full breakdown of where all my money is allocated throughout my net worth, then you should really go ahead and check out this video right here where I break everything down for you. Or maybe you wanted some inspiration or some ideas of a couple of income streams that you can start, then make sure you go and check out this video right here, and I'll see you on the other side. Take care.